Congratulations on your win. But before we proceed, could you tell me what motivated you and your company to do the project? And if you had a kind word to other future recipients, what would be your tip to them?
Okay, what motivated us was when we see the real situation of the sewage system in Hanoi that time, and also the opportunity arise that we can convince our client to do the extra mile by looking into the project that expand into the treatment that can benefit the downstream rather than just solving their immediate problem. So I think that was the main key uh, aspect how the project developed from purely looking into one simple problem. We actually expand the project into the regional scale whereby the client then involved the owner of the land, which is the Vietnamese government, to can see the benefit of the project can bring benefit to the people. So I think the philosophy of sustainability it all adds up to the impact to the people. So that's why I think the Vietnamese government was taken aback that when we pointed out to them that the open sewer can be converted and treated so that they can use the benefit of the treated water. That's how the I think the birth of the project came. Initially, we only supposed to do the treatment for their own area, but because of the situation there, that we actually see that there may be some opportunity. So we just highlight the opportunity, and we that time don't even think of cost wise. We just tell him this is a potential solution, but we know it's a big money involved, and that's how the idea become reality when they managed to convince the government of Vietnam that this project not only benefit the people near the Hanoi, the treated water will benefit downstream for their irrigation. That's how the project.
Okay. Now, before you go and share tips to future recipients, I'd like to relate it to Malaysia. All right. We also need improvement in our wastewater and drainage system with all the floods, areas like Hulu Langat and all. What, let's say, any inspiration of idea, let's say, coming from all these disasters?
Okay, I think the recent flood issues is accumulation of over the years some of the so-called neglect, and I'm sure Malaysian government we have done so many master plan, we have the solution. I think it was unfortunate that all the high tide and the depression of the 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 water, the pressure that caused this more than 1 in 100 years of flood coming in. So of course there are lessons to be learned, and I think MASMA and some of the procedure now they are revising into what else can we actually contain, what other upstream that we can contain the water, and downstream how are we going to remove it as fast as possible. I believe after this there will be more suscept. I think the local authority will be more suscept, so-called accept the recommendation of retention pond within every different area, that even in plantation for that matter, because we have changed the land use and all this. Previously plantation is not considered development, so all this water that run off never have a temporary
True.
storage. I think that was one of the main thing that maybe we need to
Look into.
look into how to solve the problem in a more sustainable way.
Yes.
In other words, we cannot solve the short-term interest.
Yes.
So a lot of people will complain why we design, suddenly you design 1 in 100 years drainage where you hardly use it. But when problem comes, everybody will start pointing fingers. So I
Yes.
think we need to be more realistic and get everybody to understand what sort of risk are we prepared to pay in order to get this type of development. If you want to have so-called risk-free or flood-free, then you have to prepare to pay for the price. Unless holistically the state government, the federal government and the people willing to share this burden, then only we can have a long-term solution.
Yes, a shared responsibility is a new thing that we should look
cannot
into.
blame one party against
True.
the other. I think everyone is involved. The developer, the end user. When we submit the plan, we want the best, the most so-called ratio, but we forgot the other party,
True.
which is a downstream.
Yeah.
So I think I think the message has to send across for this is a national problem. I don't think it's only
Yes, it's not a
single
one-party thing.
Yes, yes.
So, moving on from this, what are your words of inspiration to future recipients if they want to look into things that can really do good to the society?
Yeah, I think for future recipient, whenever we do anything, we must take into consideration the impact of the people. We cannot just focus on our project alone. We have to look at holistically, and it's our responsibility as a designer to explain and bring up those issues to our client that they may be able to see in a different perspective rather than they just focus on their bottom line. Sometimes what they do can actually contribute better in terms of the value if they manage to do this. For instance, talking about flood, if you manage to put in more and your place is flood free, your land will be appreciated even more. Had you short-sighted and you do things that's not to the advantage of the benefit of the people rather than short-sighted interest.
Very sound words there. All right. Can I have a bit from you? Well, in continuation of what was said, all right?
Yeah, I think it is our duty as an engineer to also take into consideration all these SDG requirement. Whenever we are doing a project, we must try to convince the client on the benefits that it can be bring to the corporate or to the society or to the nation. That's why we have to make a more holistic solution.
You remember the Highland tragedy?
Yes,
right,
yes.
where engineers were blamed. Now time has moved and we have grown more aware of sustainable needs.
Yes.
So if you could say something to the public, what would you say? What would you both say? Maybe you
Okay.
first?
Talking about the Highland issues, I think it all boils down to whether our authority and our developer and our engineer all can be on the same page.
True.
We cannot be overly benefit one side and then we're not fair to the public. I think eventually if the thing collapses, of course the public will suffer, the buyer will suffer, the developer would have got all their benefits. So I think being a good and developer, a good engineer, we need to be more aware of our responsibility, and also we need to balance the benefit. Cannot be totally just focus on your one-sided benefit and you pass on the problem to the next person to solve it.
And you?
Yeah, I think that is the direction that we need to take into consideration.
I could
the
say
public.
that this company is a green company. You have a green culture, right?
Yes, we
Yeah.
actually have also IMS where we actually, in our project, we also have the consideration of impact to the not only the workers, the downstream. So we have all these checklists.
So you
that
have
we
the
are-
5 P's intact.
Yes. So we're actually promoting that, and also we can see that the benefits of bringing this into our design will help us to alleviate some of this avoidable risk. We had we bring up this issue and we explain to our client that should the catastrophe happen, what is the consequence, and then what are the price we're paying now, then it will become a better perspective than they just talk about it. This is not the norm. So
Yeah.
you need to educate the client as to how to be a responsible.
Yes,
a
educating the public to be aware. Right, so thank you to both of you gentlemen. All right, I wish you the best in your future endeavors and may you all both contribute to society. Thank you.
Thank you.